Did you know that being an employee gives you a superior start to become a millionaire? Hello, my name is H.J. Chamas. In 2009, I developed a process for acquiring rental properties while being in full-time work. The process allowed me, as an employee, to buy my first ever investment rental property. Over the next few years, I was able to expand my rental property portfolio to build a lifelong monthly income, one that exceeds all my monthly expenses. I am now independently wealthy, and the life I now live is the life I have chosen for myself. But that's not how it used to be. I used to be an employee in a company, earning a wage that barely covered my expenses, and paying into some kind of pension scheme that would barely sustain me more than a few months into my old age. I kept my nose clean, and from time to time I hoped for a promotion. The working hours, coupled with the commute, took up a large part of my working week. I was left with just a few hours a day to do things for myself, and this was all I had. Regardless of whether I wanted to be an employee or not, the decision wasn't mine. It was imposed on me by circumstances. If I wanted something different, I couldn't have it. And like everyone around me, I believed that this was all there would ever be. Whether I liked my job or hated it, whether it paid well or badly, it was my only means to support myself and the only resource I had to raise a family. And like everyone around me, I assumed I would do this for the next 3 or 4 decades until I retired, hopefully with enough good health and enough spare cash to enjoy what was left of my life. There came a point where I realized I just couldn't do this anymore. I couldn't do what I was currently doing for the rest of my life. Why? Because of this. I worked hard and for long hours simply to make ends meet. I frequently ran out of money before the month had ended and was often broke. Pay raises didn't keep up with the cost of living, so I was losing money. I had almost no savings and little prospect of being able to ever save properly. At my wealthiest, in my mid-30s, I had enough money in the bank to last me 2 or 3 weeks should I lose my job, and pay raises were decided by someone else. I could never influence the amount of money coming into my bank account. I was tired of dreaming of a better world out there to explore and enjoy while I was forever stuck at work without any means to enjoy the world. I was not even in control of when I could take leave to spend time with my friends and family. In fact, I saw more of my colleagues than I saw of my friends and family. The older I got, the more paranoid I became about being kicked out of my job and not able to support my family and myself. Do you recognize any of this? If you think about it, working until you're too old to enjoy your retirement isn't a very inspiring future, especially if your job is, at best, bearable. I realized it wasn't a future that I wanted. I didn't want a future where for the rest of my life I'd spend more time at work than I did at home, where I saw my colleagues more than I saw my family, where work priorities came first, and family, friends, hobbies, my life basically, were a distant second, where I put off things that I wanted to do in order to do what my work wanted me to do. And I knew that if I didn't act, I would end up stuck like this for the rest of my life. Not like so many others. I didn't know what to do about it. I'm not a natural risk taker. I don't come from a business-minded family. There are no entrepreneurs amongst us. I'm of average intelligence, with no obvious abilities to make myself rich. Perhaps the only thing I had going for me at that time was the certainty that a lifetime spent in jobs I might not enjoy, with an income that would ensure I could never be really comfortable, with the possibility of being laid off in the next recession, or during the next company takeover, with the only light at the end of the tunnel being old age and a pension, was not a life I was prepared to put up with. I wanted something else. And even if I didn't know what it was, I knew I had to find it. But that in itself was a problem. I was stuck. I didn't want this to be my life, but I had no idea what to do next. And the question on my mind always was, what could I do about this? I had no resources. I had no spare cash. My salary barely covered my bills, but not much more. I didn't want to have to learn complicated skills in order to build wealth. I was risk-averse. I simply am not one of these brave investors we read about. My job was my entire income. There was no way I could just leave my job to try investing instead. I noticed the older, more senior people in my firm. Yes, they had been promoted. They had more responsibility. They earned more than me, but they worked long hours, sometimes very long hours, and the buck stopped with them. They had to answer for things going wrong that weren't really their fault. Like the rest of us, their weekends, or whatever remained of their weekends, were over too soon. Monday came around far too quickly, and annual holidays were always too short, never quite enough to allow them to rest, to recover from their jobs, before they had to go back to them again. They weren't happy, and in them I saw my own future. It was a future I did not want. After all, When you yearn to not be at work, then, really, should you be there at all? And while I wasn't desperately unhappy with my work situation, I knew that the occasional promotion and the odd pay raise here and there was not going to sustain me for the next 30 years. I was also sensible enough to realize that the time to escape wasn't when I was so miserable that I didn't want to get up in the morning. The time to escape was now, while I still had my sanity. And that, in a nutshell, is what I then did. In 2008, there was a worldwide recession. I was lucky enough to not lose my job, but others around me found out painfully that when things get a little tough, their employer will lay them off, and they'll do it without a second thought. I knew I might not be so lucky next time, and as I already mentioned, I knew that a life of the 9-to-5 grind for the next 30 years was not a life I wanted to live. And so I decided, if I wanted to get out of the rat race, then I wanted to do it on my terms. If I decided to stay in a job, then it had to be because I wanted to do that, not because I had no other choices. I wanted a plan, a method, a sure path to being free of the need to ever work for someone else ever again. So I began to study investing. I watched videos. I read books. I attended seminars, and I purchased courses. I spent a lot of money and a lot of time learning about how to create wealth and become financially free. In particular, I wanted to find a process, something I could set up and then run without having to think about it too much. At first, the investing world seemed very confusing. So much advice, so many options. Some investment methods were too complex. Some of them just looked too risky. Some types of investment needed the kind of upfront money that I simply didn't have. But as I worked my way through the pros and cons of each investment approach, one thing became crystal clear. That rental property investment was the single best way to generate regular monthly income. That surprised me. I was a wage slave. Houses were expensive. How could property be the answer to all my prayers? I absolutely wasn't ready to give up my employed job. I couldn't. I'd have no income. But the more I looked into this, the clearer it became. I could build a property portfolio from scratch, increase my wealth, and stay in my full-time job until I saw fit to leave it, which was, to say the least, a fantastic discovery. In fact, the real revelation, the thing I least expected to be true, was that being employed actively helped me create my rental property portfolio. It was an advantage to have a regular job. In fact, there are some very wealthy people out there who have kept their jobs because of how easy it is to get a bank loan when you're employed, which is what I shall explain in a moment. I still felt a little disbelieving, though. Houses are expensive, and I was on a salary that barely covered my own expenses. But not just that. Property investment also felt like something that had its time. It was old, finished. Everyone was into property. How could there be any good deals left for someone like me, turning up so late? But the more I looked at it, the less my fears made any sense. In fact, I quickly realized that view was naive, if not a little stupid, as I will explain shortly. My biggest fear initially, though, was actually paying for the properties in the first place. I was on a salary. I got a monthly wage, and that was it. How was I going to create a property portfolio from that? But I listened to coaches and mentors who were already earning good money from rental properties, and I began to realize that my employed status wasn't a difficulty for me to overcome. Quite the opposite. It was actually an opportunity that I could make good use of. Being employed gave me an advantage. How come? Because banks like to lend to people with regular income and a sensible plan for investing with their borrowing. And banks like property, because property is a secure investment, and banks love secure investments. And that's why it was an advantage to have a regular job. In fact, you might find that keeping your regular job is absolutely the right thing to do for a period of time. You can leave your job, but only when it suits you to do so. Furthermore, the number of property opportunities wasn't scarce, as I had thought. In fact, the number of property investment opportunities is almost endless, because at any given moment, there are thousands of properties for sale. And amongst them, if you know what you're looking for, are the absolute gems that will help you build unusual wealth. The more I found out about using rental properties to get wealthy, the more excited I became. None of the other options I was looking at came close to offering me the simplicity of rental properties investing. For example, I had already looked into day trading schemes and binary options. Both these contained big uncertainties. Not least of all, you could easily start off with a pot of money and lose it all over a couple of bad trades. That's not for me at all. I don't like taking risks. I'm just not built that way. I looked at the stock market. When it comes to buying company stocks, you've got to make good decisions. But making good decisions in such a complex environment is not easy. For me, it takes too long to learn how to make good decisions. And despite all your work, markets and economies still crash. On top of that, you need to buy a lot of shares before the dividends add up to a decent monthly income. I didn't have much money, so the stock market was out. My research into different investment ideas was thorough. I even looked at less usual, less well-known investments too, like investing in art or fine wines. But they offered no monthly income, which made them almost pointless to me. I needed regular income, and they required a big initial outlay if you were to make any reasonable profit, and they were way too risky for me. Again, I don't have much stomach for risk. A simple change in people's tastes and the value of your investment could fall through the floor. On the other hand, though, property had it all. As an employee, I could borrow from a bank, purchase a property, then get rent for it that was more than its expenses and its mortgage repayments. The rent paid the mortgage and gave me a monthly profit on top. The more properties I acquired, the more the profits added up. At a certain level, I could start thinking about not working for my boss anymore. That sounded so good to me. And I was meeting people, ordinary, everyday people, for whom this was their normal lives, building a property portfolio from nothing, living off rents, occasionally selling a property for a large profit. That was normal for them. And what I quickly learned from them was that the main key to success was to buy the right property at the right price. I didn't understand that immediately. But once I learned what that meant and how to do it, I basically knew all I needed to know. I was completely sold on this. Building a property portfolio and earning a monthly income while still in a job ticked all the boxes for me. I didn't need spare cash. My job allowed me to borrow what I needed. The investment method is a checklist. It required no special ability to learn. The risks involved were very small. In fact, living off property is less risky than living off a job. And I could stay in my job for as long as I liked. No need to quit if I didn't want to. How much better could this be? I had found what I was looking for. My mind was at rest. Actually, it wasn't. My mind was buzzing. I was excited. And to be honest, I was a bit nervous. But for the first time, I saw possibilities to get out of the rat race once and for all. To eventually be independent. To be free. And on the day I made the decision to do this, I just couldn't sleep that night. For the first time, I could see that working for a firm, doing the 9 to 5, helping others get what they wanted, but only scraping a living for myself, was no longer something I was forced to do. If I wanted a different life, I could have it. I just had to make some different decisions, and I decided to make them. But there was one more thing. I found out that rental properties investments had something about them that made them so much better than other methods. Let me tell you right now what it is about rental properties investments that make this the superior way to get wealthy. Let me tell you what rental properties investment gives you that, as far as I could see, no other investment strategy could offer you. You see, with shares and the various other options, you only make money if certain external things happen. What do I mean by that? I mean this. If you've bought shares as an investment, then in order for that investment to work out for you, other things must also work out for you. If they don't, you're sunk. So, for example, if you bought shares, then you need the stock market to rise and keep on rising. You need the companies you've bought into to be successful year after year. You need the economy to remain healthy and positive. You can see that your success relies on other things going right, things you have no control over. And if one of them goes wrong, then you will suffer. For day trading to work, you have to always be making good decisions, and few or no bad ones. That's hard enough in itself. Yet so many factors out of your control can ruin your trades. You can do everything right, and then the market does something crazy and wipes you out there and then. For investing in wines or art, you need people that want what you have. You have to hope that fashions don't alter and make your holding worth less than you paid for it. All this was too scary for me. It required me to lay out money I didn't have for investments that only grew if other factors that I couldn't control went in the right direction. I just couldn't face the risks. I'm not good at handling risk. Having to hope that circumstances turn out right for you just isn't my idea of a stress-free investment plan. I'm not criticizing those other investment methods, by the way. People do make serious money out of them. It's that they were way more complicated than I can handle and involve more risk than I could be comfortable with. Whereas with rental properties investing, the way I do it, all these downsides disappear. You only buy a property that is going to provide you with profit at the point at which you buy it. That sounds complicated. Actually, it's powerful and it's simple, and it works like this. You set criteria for your property purchases, which, if met, ensure that, first, you're buying it for less than market price, and second, and most importantly, the rental income will exceed its expenses and its mortgage payments. The rent buys the property for you, and the excess goes into your pocket. How do you do this? You have a short tick list. The criteria on the tick list are the numbers that the property must satisfy in order for that property to be profitable in the way you want it to be profitable. If a property meets all the criteria on your tick list, you buy it, because you already know that it will make you money. You set the criteria up that way. If it doesn't meet the criteria, then you don't buy it. And you don't buy anything until you know it's going to make you regular monthly profit. This is the magical, wonderful difference with my system of investing in rental properties. You make your profit at the time of purchase. As you close on the deal, you already know how much you'll make each month. You don't have to wait for some event, like a rise in share prices, to help you out. Better still, the property market can crash, and it still doesn't matter to you. I'll say that again, because I doubt you believed your ears when I just said it. The property market can crash, and it still doesn't matter to you. How can that be? Easy. Price changes only affect you when you sell, and you're not planning on selling, so price falls don't affect you. For as long as you're simply letting the property to a tenant, that tenant is paying your mortgage for you and giving you a monthly profit on top. You're making money, and the tenant is buying you a house. When the market recovers, and it always recovers, you might decide to sell for a profit then, but you probably won't. You want the monthly income, and you can continue to receive it for the rest of your life if you want to. So, from 2009, I started to carefully seek just the right kind of properties to add to my portfolio. Of course, to start with, I had no portfolio because I had no property. I was a complete beginner. I bought my first property in 2009. Amongst my criteria was that I would only buy a property that was 20% below current market prices. If no property met that criteria, I wouldn't buy. One day, my agent called me and said she'd found one that met all my criteria. The owner had to sell quickly and was prepared to take a hit on the price. I bought it. It was an easy decision. Now I could have resold it immediately for a handsome profit. I'd bought it cheap, remember, but I wanted ongoing wealth, not a quick one-off profit. I found a tenant for the property before I'd even finalized the purchase, with the rent covering the monthly expenses and mortgage payments, and leaving me with the monthly income. I was enjoying a fantastic 10.4% return on my initial investment. 10.4% was massively better than any bank or savings rates, and better than any other investment I had come across. It was wonderful return. Little did I know back then, but I would eventually perfect the process and started getting returns on investment of 20%, 27%, 34%, and even higher. Again, notice that the passive income for this deal was assured before I had even made the purchase. I created buying criteria that, if met, would ensure a monthly positive passive income. So when a property became available that met the criteria, I could buy it, knowing I was going to make money on it from day one. The profit was made by buying the right property. I didn't have to wait around hoping the economy or the stock market was going to help me out. I didn't have to hope that the currency markets didn't go mad. I didn't have to pray that tastes or fashions would suddenly change and make my holding worthless. The profit was there the second I bought the property. I never planned to sell my investment properties. However, when opportunities presented themselves to sell at a huge gain, I made use of them. On one occasion, I was able to sell 3 of my portfolio properties for profits exceeding $1 million in just that year. I had created a property buying process. I followed the process, and I got wealthy from the process. And now I want to set you up to do the same as I did. It's not difficult, and you can learn the full process in just a few days. It takes longer to find the right properties, but once you understand what you're looking for, it's very easy to spot them. I've created a course for you, and it's going to help you get what you really want out of life. My course is called The Employee Millionaire, and it comes as a book. The title explains why I wrote it: to turn employees like you into multi-millionaires like me. It's a simple course, just one book, but this isn't an ordinary book, because within its pages is everything you need to know to create your own wealth-building rental property portfolio. But it's so much more than an instruction manual, because I already know that simply telling you some things to do isn't enough. If that's all I do, you'll read the book, find it interesting, then put it down. And then you'll forget about it, not because you're lazy, not because you're not able to act on the information within, but because knowing what to do isn't enough on its own to inspire people to actually do it. Knowing what to do is only half the story. Making this work requires you to have clarity about where you currently are financially, where you want to be, and what getting to that point requires. In short, you need a plan. A workable, practical, all bases covered plan. But you need one more thing, perhaps the most important thing of all, the one thing that, if you don't have it, ensures that none of this works out. You need a mindset. You need not only to know what to do, but to realize it in your heart and soul that thousands of people just like you, in the same situation as you, with the same hopes and fears as you, trod the path you're about to take and are now independently wealthy as a result. And that's where this course is worth its weight in gold, because the instructions part of the course are pretty easy to follow. The theory is actually very interesting. Your wealth building setup only takes a few days, at most, to complete. You can get it done in hours if you wanted to. It's all pretty straightforward, but the one thing that gets in the way, the one thing that stands between people and a life of financial independence is their own fear. That feeling that getting wealthy only happens to other people. Their utterly false belief that whatever qualities are required to build wealth, they somehow don't have them. We'll demonstrate that this is factually incorrect. We'll help you prove to yourself that the wealth you want is indeed wealth that you can have. This program is a step-by-step, piece-by-piece, item-by-item instruction on how to set up and then run your own rental property portfolio so you can get from where you are now to where you would like to eventually be. This course takes every fear or worry that's ever held you back from creating the wealth you desire and shows you in simple terms why these feelings and beliefs are not true, so that you can begin the small steps towards your own financial independence. There are tens of thousands of people who have rental property as their primary source of income. They had no special advantages over you. Most started from being employed. Many of them never went to university. What they had, though, was a strategy and a mindset that gave them the realization that if you make simple, wealth-producing decisions, you'd produce wealth. It wasn't magic, and you can join them and say goodbye forever to working for others on their terms. Let's take a look at what's covered in this wealth-building property program. Know your big why. One of the biggest causes of people not taking action is because they have never properly focused on why they want to get out of the rat race in the first place. A strong enough why can move mountains. We'll help you work out and strengthen your own reason why. Get your finances straight. You think they're in a mess? They might not be. I show you a simple way of assessing your situation, the good, the bad, the ugly, so you have a crystal clear view of where you stand. Most people are relieved to do this and surprised at what it reveals. What do you want? We get down to the money, work out what you want, and set out the plan to get you there. This simple work is a major decider on who succeeds and who fails. Includes my own personal story of how I became an employee millionaire, how to get finance for your properties, and how to arrange your finances so you get the very best deals. How to prospect for the best properties. Remember, the profit is in the purchase, so I will show you how to go about choosing the right properties, so as you purchase them, you already know you've made money. How to make decisions about individual properties. This is how you set up your property criteria. If a property meets your criteria, you know it's going to make you money. Clarifying your investment criteria. Level 1. What am I looking for? Level 2. What will I consider viewing? Level 3. What will I put an offer on? Level 4. What will I buy? How to get a feel for the property price cycle so that you can better plan when to buy. And, if you want to, know when to sell for handsome profits. The course contains many other practical lessons and insights to help you build your investment property portfolio safely and quickly. These insights include understanding your rental property's operation and financial performances, how to make offers and negotiate deals, due diligence, how to ensure this property is a good buy, different ways of financing your property purchases, how to find tenants for your property, how to manage your rental properties, organizing your rental business, creating a virtuous cycle of wealth creation and growth. As I have said, this is not an ordinary book. It's a template for a far better way of living, a way of life enjoyed by so many ordinary people, a way of life considered unreachable by so many others. You will find out that everything is so much simpler than you originally believed. And added to the book, we are offering 2 special bonuses, which I will tell you about shortly. I'm offering you an outstanding opportunity to build your own income stream and to live life as you want to live it. And the cost of this book is nothing like what it would cost you to learn all of this information yourself. Remember, I started my education years ago. I attended many courses and seminars to acquire the knowledge I needed to become wealthy. And I hired mentors so that I can get one-to-one guidance and advice. It cost me thousands to learn how to build a wealthy life from property. The course I'm offering you also costs significantly less than getting your own personal guide or mentor. Mentors aren't cheap, typically $4,000 to $5,000 per month. Mentors are fantastically useful, but that's some pretty serious money. But I did it all, and I paid for it all. And everything I learned, every insider secret I picked up, every tactic and method I was shown, everything I did as an employee to make myself a millionaire is in this course. Every single thing. And of course, this book is much cheaper than what it would cost you to actually go out and learn all this yourself. Without a process in place, there will be many errors, and some of them will be expensive. It's all here, broken into steps, laid out for you to simply copy and earn. Nothing is left out. I wrote this course to take complete novices through the simple steps that will make them confident property owners. The course is tested and proven, and it's available to you right now. I mentioned there are 2 bonuses that come with this course. Here they are. Bonus 1, templates. Professionally designed templates for all your major documents make your life incredibly easy and show a professional image to banks, sellers, and tenants. Your big why list. Transforming your limiting beliefs into empowering beliefs. Letter of intent, offer letter. Rental agreement. Property condition checklist. Value $50. Bonus 2, worksheets. Remove all the work from your rental property business. These sheets lay everything out for you. Fill in the details to evaluate a rental property instantly and work out quickly if the opportunity is a good one for your portfolio. Rental property investing made simple. Personal financial statement. Financial KPIs dashboard. Determining your mortgage loan eligibility. Investment criteria worksheet. Property price evaluator. Rental property cash flow projections. Mortgage loan calculator. Value $77. The course material alone, if you make full use of it, can comfortably make you hundreds of thousands of dollars or pounds or euros. I certainly have made much, much more than that. It cost me more than $40,000 to learn everything that I have included in this course, and it took more than a year to do it. So if you were to acquire all this massively practical information for a mere $250, you know you would be getting the deal of a lifetime. Read it, absorb it, use it, and watch the money start rolling in. This course actually isn't $250. Although if it was, it would be worth every single penny. In fact, we're not even charging $50 for this information and training. You get to learn it all for just $4.99. For the price of a couple of drinks, you will hold the keys to your own wealth-generating rental property portfolio. A portfolio that can generate tens of thousands of dollars per month in income. And there's no risk at all with this purchase. Because I want you to feel reassured about this investment in your financial future. And so the whole package comes with a complete 30-day money-back guarantee. Remember, this is a program for people who want to work their way to wealthy independence. It's for people who want to use their employed status to create a wealth-generating property portfolio. It's for people who might want to eventually leave their 9-to-5s and enjoy a life where they, and not some boss or employer, decide what they'll do each day. If you discover that this isn't you, then return the book and we'll give you your money back. Or if after buying the book, you realize that you just aren't able to put in the small amount of effort necessary to secure life-changing results, then again, return the book and we'll give you your money back. Nobody wants to spend the greater part of their waking life doing what their company tells them to do. We don't want to work to make someone else rich. We want to work to make ourselves rich. You will never have the freedom to truly live while the firm or organization you work for gets first call on how you spend your days. Make the best decision you've made in a long time. Get your copy today and start your journey to financial freedom and independence. I want you to come and join us. My name is H.J. Chamas, and I'm so glad I had the chance to speak to you today. You're going to achieve wonderful things over the next few months. I hope we get to speak so you can tell me about them. It'll be especially gratifying for me to see you join all those people whose whole income came from their jobs, but who wanted something more, and who got it by following this wealth-building system. For you, the sooner you start, the sooner your journey out of the 9-to-5 rut begins, and the sooner you could start earning monthly income from property. So do please click the button and get your own copy of our course and the 2 free bonuses I described earlier. And remember, if you leave things as they are, they don't only not get better, they tend to get worse. Opportunities to join the ranks of the independently wealthy don't come along that often. If you don't use a proven step-by-step process for building your personal wealth, where will that leave you? Exactly where you are now? Don't do that to yourself. Order now and come and join the independently wealthy. There's lots of us. Thanks again,